Hi, my name is Emily, and this is Tensegrity Flow Yoga. Today, we're going to talk about something that makes Tensegrity Flow different and a little unique to other styles of yoga, and that is in how we use resistance, intentionally applied resistance throughout our practice. And we do that in order to better engage our muscles and engage the connective tissue, the myofascia, in a holistic manner, which it always is anyway. But through these methods and these techniques, it really helps us to gather up all of our apparatus so it's working together all the time. And the way we do it is very easy, and it's very similar to how you would work out at the gym or with a set of weights. So when you work out with a set of hand weights at the gym, the use of the weights is to apply resistance. That's what you're doing, is resistance training. And the heavier the weight, the higher the resistance. And in yoga, we can do the same thing, but we don't necessarily need hand weights to do it. We can use our own resistance, just pushing on our body in different various ways, or pushing on props or on the floor or on the wall, to help create very similar effect. And so I think it's much easier to show you instead of tell you. So you're going to need a chair. So go ahead and find a chair. And the first posture that we'll do is a pigeon pose. So let's take simple pigeon, seated pigeon, where we're going to create a square type of a shape with the knee, bringing the left ankle onto the right knee, and just allowing that left hip to open, which feels fine. Of course, be mindful of your knees. You always want to be careful with our knees. But for most people, this feels fine. And depending on your particular body, you may find it on the inner thigh, maybe, the low back, somewhere in the left hip area. And then we can actually create a more holistic opening by taking this hand and pushing our knee into the hand and the hand into the knee. And then notice how that opening kind of goes now down into the hamstring. It's still in the hip, but it goes into the hamstring, and a little more even feel throughout the leg and throughout the hip. So it maybe feels concentrated in certain areas, but then it disperses throughout the body in an even way, almost like it tapers off. Whereas opposed to when we just let the knee hang, you might feel it very much isolated in a particular spot. So that's one example. Let's do the other leg so that we're balanced. Let's lift the right leg. We'll come over on the right side. Try to sit nice and tall in your spine. That's always very important. And we'll pause here and just let your hip open for a moment and feeling what you feel here. Maybe close your eyes so that you can really be aware of your sensations. And then let's go to the applied resistance. So that we'll put the hand on the inside of the knee and push your knee into your hand so that the knee comes up a bit, and the hand into the knee. And as you push there, feel it has what I call the grounding lift. So you're grounding, but it's lifting at the same time. And then you're really working to fine tune how much and how little pressure you apply, because it's like Goldilocks, you're looking to find the just right space. So take a moment and push there enough that you get that more evenly feel, a more even distribution of sensation across the hip, maybe down through the leg. Of course, you got to stay breathing. The breath is very, very important. All right, and then let's release. Okay, so that's one nice example. So another one is in just lifting and lengthening up through the spine. So I'm going to turn sideways for this one so you can see. And when we stand, a common cue that you'll always hear in class is elongate your spine, lengthen the spine. Well, one very good technique to do that is to give yourself something to press against, like working with hand weights. So we want to apply some resistance so our muscles have something to work in opposition to or work against. So in this case, we'll bring the hands, and I like to clasp the hands loosely into interlaced fingers, and then bring the thumbs together. And I'm going to place the back of my thumbs onto the crown right there where the soft spot was when you were a baby. And notice my elbows are forward and not wide. So when you do this, if you bring your elbows wide, what that's going to do is collapse or squeeze together your scapula, and it will create an impingement to your movement. So you've got to move the scapula wide so that spine has some room to lengthen and isn't trapped in the trapezius muscles. All right, so, and I know that can be tricky all on its own, right, is to let the elbows come forward, but it's something we'll work on and we'll get there. But we want the elbows in the front plane, the collarbones widen on your front of the chest, and the scapula also widen. And then as you press your arms down, then press your head up. Press the whole spine up. Feel how that allows those core muscles to engage more readily, so they're more easy to recruit the core muscles to lift when you have something to lift against. So this one is one I use all the time, and I use it in standing, I use it in seated, I use it in lunging postures all over the place. So just notice the difference there. And then again, we can bring the arms down and lift up on our own. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But then again, notice when you bring the arms up, free the scapula. So you're freeing the thoracic part of the spine. And then press those arms down and press your head up. And then breathe here in a way that changes the diaphragmatic shape, that changes the shape of your ribs. And feel how light and lovely that feels. It has such a float to it. You almost feel like your rib cage is floating in a pool of water. So that's one of my very, very favorite uses of the applied resistance. And another is in standing. So let's go ahead and stand, and we'll open our side bodies. And the force of gravity is always pulling us down. And so we've got to push down in order to give the chest something to lift up against and away from. So in this case, we're going to press down into our chair, lift up through the ribs, and you're going to have to step your feet, comfortable distance. And then as we begin to bow over, first don't use the chair at all. Just have your hand there without actually using it. And notice what you feel. Notice the sensations. Like there is nothing wrong with this. This is great. But then if we press down into the chair, notice how you start to gather all of this opening that wasn't there before. Like I can move so far deeper, so much deeper into the posture. And instead of feeling like all of the opening is isolated in my upper ribs, now I feel it go down to my hip, even down to my upper thigh, and definitely out through the whole of the arm. And I'm going to breathe. Inhale, come up. And then let's take the hand off the chair. Inhale, lift. Exhale, go over just at your own. And notice how you kind of, it's gravity. We can't help it. We kind of collapse here. So if we don't have the chair, we can use our hip, and I kind of leverage my hand. I push it in and down against the hip to give me something to lift up and away from. And so that's a way to do it if you don't have the chair. But of course, if you do have a chair or even a wall or a counter, this is a great one to do in the kitchen or at your vehicle before you take off in the morning, or you pause to get gas. So push down. As much as you push down, as much as you'll be able to rise up. So we're grounding upward. And then inhale, let's come up. And then exhale, release. Okay, we got to do the other side. So we'll switch the chair. And then just as before, we're going to step our feet a comfortable distance. You don't want to be too close so that you're, pinned in there. You want to have at least enough room for a golf ball under your armpit. So that's a good rule of thumb. All right, inhale, lift, and then exhale over. This time, not using the chair. You'll find just having your hand on the chair provides some level of lift. This support is so good. It really is. Any place you can find to apply support in your practice, I highly recommend it. It won't be making you weaker. You'll actually be getting stronger. Okay, let's come up. Inhale, now exhale over again. And this time we're going to use that chair. So push down and then pressure hips over. On this one, I need to step out just a little bit so I can get my body mechanics. Press down. Use that pressing down to give your body something to lift away from. Again, you're finding that it's opening more through the hip, maybe all the way down into your leg. Maybe you don't quite feel it that far, but with time and practice, you will. All right, inhale, let's come up. And then exhale, we're going to go over just on our own accord. And then we're going to use now our hip to create the applied resistance. So bring your hand up and make like a flat palm. Place it there and push in and down. So make sure that you can lift your hips, your ribs up. And depending on how your body is shaped, you might find that you press in different parts than I do. So it's very individual. You'll have to figure it out. It's part of the fun. Okay, inhale, let's come up. And then exhale, we'll come back down. All right, now to create some symmetry there, let's bring our arms again over the head. And this is called ecstasy arm, in case you aren't familiar with it. And so the hands then will come, and notice I'm going to put a bend in my knees, keep my groins hollowed back, and then lift the head up into the hands, lifting the spine up into the hands. And all I'm doing is letting my arms press down into my head, giving my spine something to lift against. So we're rooting down in order to rise up. And then release. And just for funsies, let's go ahead and go into our dog pose. So a modified dog pose. So we'll walk our hands back, our feet back. The arms come forward. And then from here, we could apply our grounding force into the hands. So instead of letting the chest drag toward the floor and loose with the strength of the arms and the palms, I'm going to firm my arm muscles and then use my strong hands to press into the back of the chair. And instead of letting my chest sink and collapse, I'm going to hold more structure in my rib and my torso area, and then begin to lengthen my hips back and long. And then the more I breathe here, the more I'll start to find opening all through the back. So this feels really, really nice. Big breaths. So when we're holding in these postures, the breath is creating the movement. Even when we don't physically move the body, we know that there's so much movement happening on the inside. Everything connected, everything joined. All right, now let's walk back up. And then the next time, let's do a warrior. So we'll do warrior 2. And in warrior 2, we'll bring our hand onto the back of the chair for our applied resistance here. So apply that resistance into your hand, and notice how much easier things get in the legs. And it's not that you are, all of a sudden your arms doing the work for your legs. It's just that with that grounding force, you're more able to recruit your entire body to help support you in this shape. I even like lifting the heel and then sinking the hips down. And then my knee actually touched the back of the chair, which is even better. So if I have something to press, and if my chair wouldn't move, I could press my knee into that chair. It would feel so wonderful. So if you could imagine that this chair was the wall, maybe you even go to the wall and use the wall for your warrior. the front knee pushing into the wall, and you'll find that that lets you activate your muscles very powerfully and lift the spine, and the postures become light and very floating, very open. So let's breathe here, and I can keep pushing down onto the chair anytime I need to re-recruit my muscles. Try to keep them all evenly activated. Then as I lift the other arm, inhale, let's come up. All right, let's do the other side. And again, if you have a wall, this is even better at the wall. All right, so inhale. On the exhale, we'll move into our warrior. And I'm going to start with my hand on the chair, pushing down. Lifting up out of the posture slightly, lifting the heel and then sinking my hips down. So when that heel is lifted, it frees up the joint, the hip joint, so that you can actually find more flexibility. You can relower your heel at some point, but in that action of setting into the posture, it's very good to lift, then lower the hips, and then lower the heel. All right, let's press down into the chair. Feel some of that weight come out of the legs, using your arms, activating the core even, and then we can take the arms up. And then again, if you have a strong chair, something, or even a ledge, a wall of some type, try to press the knee into that. And you'll feel that resistance press back into your knee. And that will then help you ground down, which then lifts you up. So it's this whole chain reaction which happens. It's really, really great. Feels so good. Will just make your practice so much more enjoyable. All right, inhale, let's come up. All right, and then we'll turn the toes in and come back into standing. Okay, so for our next posture, we're going to do a high lunge, and I'm actually going to do it here at the wall. It's not going to be a good angle, but I'm going to do it anyway, just because I would like for you to remember this and practice like this on your own. So we'll come with come into the hands at the wall and kind of into a lunge posture, and then you can bend your knee to the point where it actually touches the wall. And then I'm going to press the knee into the wall, and my hands can come down maybe to the hips. And then as you press into the wall, we're lifting, you'll find a lot of lightness, a lot of lift. And then we can then bring the hands into that ecstasy arm position. It's also called a rooster top position. And then press your hands down and your head and spine up. And then keep working the back heel away. So you want to ground the ball of the back foot and press into the heel. So you find opening on the front of the hips, sides of the hips. You might even begin to work back into a spinal extension. And then we're going to bring the hands onto the wall. Go ahead and straighten that leg. Inhale, and then exhale. Come into a forward fold with your hands on the wall. Pull down on the wall. So you're pushing strong, pulling the wall down, and then draw your head, long spine toward the wall. And then inhale, we'll come up. So that pushing into the wall with your hands will give your spine something to lengthen against again. So you're going to get really, really strong there. All right, let's do the other side. Almost done. So inhale, we'll come up. Exhale, we'll bend, bringing the knee to the wall. And breathe. Make sure you're breathing. And we're going to push the hands down, lift up. Now really ground into the ball of your back foot. Keep pressing back through the calf muscle, back through the Achilles. Now we'll bring our arms onto that rooster top position. Press your arms down, press your spine up. Feel how light you feel here. You might even have room for some spinal extension as you begin to arch backward. Little pulses are always good. All right, now we'll bring the hands to the wall. You can support there as you straighten your leg, kind of adjust your parts a bit for split leg forward fold. Now as we bring our chest forward, we're going to push the hands like you're trying to push the wall away, and then drag the wall down with your hands. So it's away and down. Keep widening your sitting bones. Good. And then inhale, we'll come up. And then come back onto the mat. So there are places where we can ground in every single pose. So it's really fun when you learn how that works, and then you can begin to apply it on your own in your own practice. And it doesn't even have to be a practice. When I'm stretching throughout the day, I'm always looking for something that I can apply some resistance into. A shelf, a wall, a car, a lawnmower, anything at all will work. So I'll show you one more thing, and then we'll close. So go ahead and have a seat from our seated position. So it works in a seated position as well. It works in all positions. And then we'll extend our left leg long and hug the right knee up. And just to give an example, and I didn't have this one in mind, but like I said, they're everywhere. Before we're getting ready to twist, we're wanting to lengthen our spine. So we can lengthen our spine here by pressing our knees down into the hands down into the knees to give the spine something to lift against. And then we can go back to the rooster top, again, giving something to lift against. And then begin to rotate, turn the spine, and then find the twist. And then once in the twist, it's important that I keep leveraging. Keep looking for those spaces to leverage, to root down in order to rise up. Breathing. Okay, let's release. And then what I was wanting to show you was Asana, which is split leg forward fold here, or head to knee pose, single head to knee pose. And we'll come forward. It's important that we're on the front edge of our sitting bones, first of all. And as we come forward, we might be tempted to grab the foot and pull the foot back toward you, which is one way that you can do it. But what if you take your hand, I usually take the first knuckle there, the knuckle at the fingers, and I push that into my foot. I push the foot into the hand, I push the hand into the foot, and then that creates all of this tremendous release of opening in the hamstrings to allow for that forward bend. So you can see how much space that cleared for me in order to find this shape. And then if I want, I can bring my hand down. But ironically, as soon as I do, I start feeling a lot of isolated, intense stretching in my hamstrings. So then if I place my hand back and pushing my hand into my foot and pushing that foot into the hand, so the arrows are going toward each other. And then again, that's going to release and move that opening, move that stretch through my whole backside, not just concentrated into one area. All right, inhale, let's come up. And by the way, that's also how if we do become injured by stretching, that's often how it happens when we're being too aggressive in one area. So this technique will help to prevent injuries as well. All right, so first we'll start with our twist. So hands pushing down, arms pushing down to lift the spine. Breathe, and then we'll bring the arms up into that rooster top. Push and push. So arms push, and then the head returns the push. And then exhale, we'll begin to twist, and then bring the hands into their posture. And we've got to breathe. All right, and now we'll do our Asana, head to knee pose. So the knee will come out to the side. We're on the very front edge of the sitting bones. It's very important that you not be tucked under and on the back side of your sit bones, which won't allow you to sit up tall. So get those sit bones back and wide, even if you have to sit on a blanket or something. All right, inhale, lift, and then exhale, let's come forward. And this is about my edge without the technique. So this is where I feel a strong stretch. All right, now with the technique, I'm going to bring my hand and push the arm and push the foot. And then that clears some of that bunching feeling. It clears some of that holding so that I can gradually begin to explore and feel more comfortable and enjoyable in this shape. Notice that my knee is slightly bent, so I'm not hyperextending the knee. Ujjayi breathing. A little extra push. All right. And then I'm going to release this. And bring the feet flat to lift the spine. Let's finish in a Shavasana. So we'll lie down on the back. As we come on the back, we might as well take the knees wide into a Baddha Konasana. So as the knees come open, we can let them hang. And then again, we can use the applied resistance. So in this case, we could push the knees out into the hands. And notice that by that activation, I can actually go further in my hips than I could just by letting them hang. So that's kind of interesting. And you can also do it on the other side. So if I resist from the inside, I can push down and push my knees into my hands. But so I'm firming them in that direction, but that's releasing the joint, allowing my hips to open. So that's a big difference. A big difference. It's very effective. All right, and we'll release when you're ready, and you can straighten your legs and just enjoy a simple Shavasana. So we'll adjust your parts so that you can relax. Close the eyes. Simply enjoying how it feels to lie down, emptied with nothing to do, clearing the mind, focusing only on your breath. And you can stay here for as long as you'd like. And thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you'll be able to use some of these techniques in your practice, both on and off of your yoga mat. Namaste.